Just wanted to give you all a heads up. Appreciate you all taking the time to join us this afternoon to hear about our Year 50 application and technical assistance for the entitlement grant applications, CDBG, Home, and ESG. I'm Michelle Spansky. I'm the Deputy Commissioner of Neighborhood Development with NBD. We also have Commissioner Collins here, Sue McMahon, our ESG Program Coordinator, and Tanya Eastman, our new Director of Neighborhood Grants with us. So today we're just going to kind of walk through the RFP application timeline, a handful of the supporting documents that we're looking for folks to submit, go over a couple things specific to organizations that are affected by Section 3 provisions, and then a couple notes on kind of funding priorities. I think by and large, a lot of this is really similar to what we've been working with for previous funding years. There are a couple new additions to the application in terms of paperwork that we're adding this year, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But by and large, if you're, I think most of the folks on the call are, this isn't totally your first time with the process. So we did this year a little bit just from a timeline perspective, as you may have noticed, moved up our timeline just a little bit from when it has been released previously. Part of the reason for that is just making sure kind of we found that the time that we started with last year wasn't as conducive as possible to really kind of maximizing our opportunities for public engagement and public comment on the funding applications and recommendations. So we just want to make sure that we're leaving enough time to do that thoroughly, and also make sure from all the stakeholders that are involved in the process as those funding applications go to the Common Council for review, that that's able to be done timely and provide us enough room to work within the timelines where we have to have stuff filed with HUD for annual funding years. So even with all of that happening, the RFP application window itself is still open about an extra week than it has been in previous years. So although it's happening a little bit earlier, still more time to work with than we've had previously. Just walk through a little bit about the calendar for this year. So obviously the RFP was released last week. We're starting today with this particular webinar technical assistance session. As we have in past years, we will also be making appointments available for one-on-one technical assistance with NBD staff. We'll be doing these all by appointment. So if you're interested in setting any of those up for specific questions that you have about programs that you're thinking about for your agency, or kind of more like one-on-one things, reach out to the contacts that are listed there. If it's for CDBG or Home, that would be Tanya that you'd be connecting with. And then for ESG, you can reach out to Sue directly, and then we'll schedule a time within those 2 days to meet with you on those particular questions. As I mentioned before, applications are all going to be due on October 27th by 2 p.m. All of those need to be submitted via email. If for any reason you have you're not able to submit electronically, please reach out directly to the program administrator contacts that you would be setting up appointments with in advance of the deadline. We can see what we can figure out there. We will not accept any late or incomplete applications. So definitely encourage folks, as in previous years, to make sure that you're working through stuff well in advance of that deadline in the event that you run into any challenges with anything. Starting next month, after all applications are submitted, we will run through the financial review process for all agencies, basically to kind of take an assessment of overall organizational fiscal health based on the documents that are submitted with the supplemental applications. If any agencies are found to be ineligible as a result of that review, your application will not go forward within the review process to the Risk Analysis Committee. Very similar to previous years, right after financial review happens, Risk Analysis Committee will go through, those are all members of the community that work in various kind of stakeholder organizations relevant to the programming that you all are doing. Each of those members are reading applications and then deliberating, kind of making recommendations to neighborhood and business development staff around what allocation should look like. for those programs. From their neighborhood and business development staff, we make additional recommendations to the mayor's office. And then after that, our draft allocations will go before the Common Council for additional public comment period and consideration before they're all finally adopted. So all of that stuff is happening. We're working on the drafting of the action plan when we're doing some of those internal budget decisions. And then in January is the point at which the public comment period would open. Through the month of February, we will be holding both an NBD public meeting and then a Common Council hearing to allow for public comment to take place with for any of the programs, much like in previous years. And then by March, we will have, we anticipate having final decisions with a budget adopted by the council, at which point we will send out award letters and then coordinate meetings with staff to go through scopes and kind of program deliverables for the year. And then we'll be May 2024 for the start of program year 50. I should say too, if anybody has any questions as we're going along, feel free to drop those in the chat and then we will catch up on those at the end. If you are unable to access the chat because you're on the phone, just hold your questions till the end and then we can make sure to take you off mute and answer those then. This is a list of all of the attachments that are required in addition to your application. So these are all outlined within the RFP, but particular programs that we're looking, or particular documents that we're looking for to be submitted with each of your program applications. Board resolution to apply, be certified. We need your articles of incorporation for your agency, IRS determination letter, most recent audit or financial statements, and a management letter. Resumes and job descriptions for the key staff that are involved in any of your program management that you're seeking funding for. Organizational bylaws, board minutes. We ask that those be the last 3 meetings and that those 3 meetings have taken place within the last 6 months from the time that the application is due. We ask for a list of your members of your board of directors, including their addresses, what their term limits are, and then any particular affiliations that those folks may represent relative to your organization. Couple new things that we are adding this year. We're adding a equal opportunity employment information report. That was included, that particular form was included as an appendix in each of the RFPs that can be found online. We're also adding the ban the box form. In both of those cases, those are forms that are typically required of any firm or agency that is applying to an RFP that is released by the city's Division of Purchase. So the reason for this is really just so that kind of from a citywide perspective that what we're doing within any of the entitlement grants is remaining in alignment with those standard processes that we kind of have as a city. It's kind of a happy medium that we have right now, kind of understanding that the work of that we're doing here within the entitlement grants historically has not gone through the city's Division of Purchase. There's a lot of additional requirements that sometimes of things that are going through purchase that are we realize are a little bit add a lot of burdens for agencies. So this is kind of one way that we're trying to find a happy medium between kind of balancing all of those things there. And then lastly, the other new thing that we're asking this year from agencies is that you also submit a copy of your agency's most recent 990. And again, that'll be something that we'll take a look at kind of through the fiscal review process. Looking at kind of section 3 information and local hiring. Again, we will be monitoring for any CDBG, ESG, and home recipients if you're requesting more than $100,000 by submitting your application, you're agreeing to comply with those Section 3 reporting requirements. So please take a look at those on the RFP. We talked about each of these, so I'm not going to go over that again. Notes on funding. So much like in previous years, we expect that our funding levels that we get for our full allocations are always kind of subject to change. We don't expect there at this point to be anything that happens demonstrably different from previous years, but the trend that we have seen over time is there's always a little bit that gets shaved off. At this point, like we said, we don't expect that it's going to be anything that will result in major changes from previous years. But we're still kind of most importantly making sure that we're giving priority within that to overall highest quality programs that are the most in line with the city's funding priorities that are identified in the 5-year comprehensive plan. And then additionally, kind of increasingly, the Risk Analysis Committee has been interested in what agency performance has looked like in previous years. So really kind of weighing each of those things as we make those final determinations. The other thing too that is really beneficial for applicants is for you all to demonstrate kind of additional matching that is happening through other non-city funding sources for the programs that you're seeking. Going to talk a little bit about CDBG specific priorities here. As I mentioned, key things that we're looking for within alignment of our 5-year comp plan, programs that are promoting and preserving safe, affordable, and stable housing, building family wealth and promoting economic inclusion, and creating more vibrant and resilient neighborhoods. So particularly within the match requirements, as we mentioned, we'll give priority to programs that can demonstrate a 25% or higher match through other sources. Couple kind of key things to highlight for particular programs kind of within those some of those priorities. Definition of housing counseling. Housing counseling as defined by HUD is considered to be anyone who's giving independent expert advice customized to the needs of any of the clients that you're working with for kind of addressing barriers that they might be experiencing within their housing attainment. It must include key elements as defined by HUD. So there needs to be a documented intake process. There needs to be a client budget, an analysis of kind of financial and housing affordability that individual might be able to attain with their housing based on their current situation. There's components of client action plans of how they might secure housing, and then kind of additional follow-up to happen with clients. We are only able to fund programs that are looking to do housing counseling through for agencies that are approved housing counseling agencies already. So 2 ways for you to become an approved agency if you are not already one. You can apply directly to HUD, or you can look to partner with an existing housing counseling agency. The process for if you're looking to go directly through HUD, there's a course that you can take, HUD's Intro to Housing course, that you can find more information about on the HUD website. Would encourage you, if that applies to any of your particular programs, for you to take a look at those requirements. And if you have any questions about that, we can certainly happy to help you the best that we can. CBDOs, so CBDOs, any community-based development organizations. CBDOs, you can be, if you fall into the category of a CBDO, you can use CDBG funding to carry out any kind of eligible neighborhood revitalization, economic development, or energy conservation projects. For those particular projects, the main purpose of it must be to improve kind of physical characteristics, economic characteristics, or social environment for your agency's target area. And it also needs to be very clearly tied into one of the problems that's outlined within the consolidated plan. So we would be looking, particularly with any CBDOs, prioritization would be given to projects that are within the boundaries of the neighborhood revitalization strategy area, which if you're not familiar with those can also be found within the 5-year comp plan. And with that, one of the benefits for those organizations that are certified as CBDOs, you're exempt from the 15% public service cap. So just offers a little bit more flexibility there with how some of our funding works. Next thing we're going to talk a little bit about is our home program. So home investment partnership program. Any of our home programs, I'm sorry, let me back up here. Just kind of an overview of the home program. So home program has been around since about 1990, and the city of Syracuse has been involved in the home program since that kicked off. And really what we do with home is a lot of prioritization of new construction of housing to facilitate overall kind of neighborhood revitalization strategy. In addition to a lot of those funding that we're giving for kind of project specific construction, home allocation does allow for what's called CHODO operating. So 5% of the total allocation, which worked out to a little over $75,000 in this current funding year. A reserve CHODO, which is 15%, so a little over about $230,000 this year. Largely, again, we're prioritizing a lot of direct development subsidies and home buyer assistance with those funds. There is a small bit that we have for home kind of overall kind of administration within our office. In all, it worked out to about $1.6 million for this current funding year, and total funding allocations for that have stayed pretty similar over the last several years within this 5-year cycle, and we expect those to stay similar again for this year. Just to dig in a little bit more to CHODOs, if you're not familiar, private nonprofit community service organization. Your main purpose, if you are a CHODO, as defined by HUD, is that you're providing and developing decent, affordable housing for the community that you are serving. In order to become a CHODO, there is an annual certification process that you have to go through the city to demonstrate that you meet the requirements that those agencies have. Those are all outlined within the RFP. Any agencies that are awarded CHODO operating funds are only able to get those for carrying out a home funded project within the given program year. Again, those are capped at 15% for eligible projects, and then 5% for those agencies' operating expenses. Largely, we're using kind of those CHODO set-aside funds to provide just some additional equity for organizations to be able to take on projects and help do capacity buildings. So they could be good for smaller organizations who are looking to do a variety of different things that kind of fall into the category of affordable housing needs, but also allow for some kind of guaranteed resources from an administration standpoint. The operating costs for any agency that is seeking CHODO funds must be directly connected to the development projects for those particular funding sources. So if you're looking to, you can't just necessarily use it for anything that you want. It has to be aligned to a project that's happening specific to affordable housing work. Again, here, same thing with CHODO reserve, not anything particularly separate from everything else that I've already talked through. We do very much can encourage any agency who is interested in finding out a little bit more about the CHODO process or becoming a CHODO, please set up a meeting, reach out to us to set up a meeting, just to kind of walk through those requirements to see if it's going to be a good fit for your agency before you submit any applications. regardless of whether or not you're looking to apply for a CHOTO, if there's any additional technical assistance that we can provide in terms of any scattered site projects that agencies might be looking to take on from a construction standpoint, again, encourage you to reach out to us before submitting any kind of applications, as we very much try to prioritize those within any number of different housing strategy plans that we have. So there's oftentimes kind of areas in which, if you have a number of different sites that you might be evaluating, we can kind of help steer you in the right direction of if there's any particular areas where we're looking to kind of concentrate efforts, just so that we can make sure that we're that the funding that we're putting out is conducive to kind of more comprehensive neighborhood revitalization. We do accept, on the construction end, we accept applications on a rolling basis for those construction projects that are going for any affordable first-time homeownership or for rental housing development. Particularly also have an interest in projects where there's rehabilitation components that can in some way address mitigation of lead-based paint hazards, especially lead-based paint hazards that are in rental units within the neighborhood revitalization strategy area. And yeah, both rental and for owner occupancy, those projects are generally given priority relative to other applications. All right, and now I'm going to turn it over to Sue to talk about ESG. Yes, no, wait, click here.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. The program requirements for ESG proposals, they have to align with the local priorities identified by the continuum of care. ESG match requirements are 100% from non-ESG sources. Match sources can be, cash in kind, but must be documented appropriately. And ESG programs must participate in the coordinated entry process and adopt the housing first philosophy and intervention. Recipients must be active members of the Housing and Homeless Coalition. Funding will be focused, funding will be focused on the following activities, which is nothing new if you already applied. It's with the rapid rehousing, homeless prevention, street outreach, and with the emergency shelter, it's transitional programs that have been grandfathered in that were funded in 2010 or earlier, which is only actually one program right now in our community. Okay, and these are the definitions for rapid rehousing activities. It's aiding individuals and families that are homeless in transitioning as quickly as possible into permanent housing. And homeless prevention are individuals and families who are at imminent risk or at risk of homelessness, meaning those who qualify under paragraph 2 and 3 of the homeless definition, or those who qualify as at risk of homelessness. Individuals and families must have an income at or below the 30% of the AMI. And street outreach activity is providing outreach, engagement, case management, emergency and or mental health services, transportation or services to special populations, or essential street outreach services for unsheltered individuals and families. And again, here is the explanation for the only transitional programs to receive funding at FY or program year 2010 and met the criteria under the former emergency solutions or emergency shelter definition.
So overall, again, really encourage everyone to take a careful look at the RFP for specific eligibility requirements. Make sure that you're allowing yourself time to request and prepare documents, especially anything that you may need to get signed off from your board. Take a look again at the 5-year con plan and the application All of those can be found on the NBD website. We'll also circulate out links to everyone of exactly where those are at, just so that you have those available. I encourage you all again to reach out to us, make an appointment for one-on-one technical assistance for any questions that you have about either existing programming that you're looking to continue or new programs that you might be considering starting. We also asked too within the applications, they are all set up as fillable PDFs. Several of them have character limits that are associated with them. We ask you to please not exceed those character limits. Those are all set with character limits automatically within the applications. So if you are trying to exceed them, you will need to cut content, and we will not accept additional attachments for those. Again, the more that you can do to prepare in advance, the better for anything that may happen according to Murphy's Law. And that's really all that we have. We'll turn it over now to you all for any specific questions that you have, for anything that we might not have covered. Feel free to either drop those in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and just take yourself off mute, we can answer those. Barring none, we're also happy. Yeah, Kelly, we can, the information for any character limits. So if any sections have character limits, those are clearly specified within the questions themselves in the application. So if it doesn't say anything about a character limit, then it's pretty self-explanatory and straightforward. If you have any questions about it though, please reach out to us and we can clarify those. Anybody else?
I do have a question, just to confirm. In the ESG application, the section of Homeless Management Information System, HMIS participation, a question about the data quality report form. So the data frame that they have indicated in the application is October 1st, 2023 to October 1st, 2024. I just want to confirm that this is typo and the date that is required is October last year to October this year.
Yes, that's correct. So just like the past year, you know, what's your data quality?
Great, thank you.
I'm apologies if I'm just looking at it and not seeing it, but I can't seem to find the CBDO application with the others.
Yeah, it should be within the home RFP.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you. Not.
All right, we'll take a look at that and double check and then send out an email to everybody.
Thanks.
Anyone else? All right. Well, with that, we will let you all go. If you have any questions that come up afterwards, again, please feel free to reach out to any of us. And we will also circle back with links to where all the slides can be found on the website and then clarify the CBDO piece of that. So thank you all.